It is Monday, March 2, 2026. And if you've glanced at any kind of screen today, you know the situation in Tehran is just dominating the news cycle.
Oh, absolutely. It's everywhere.
Yeah, the imagery is really visceral. You've got smoke over the skyline, the aftermath of U.S. and Israeli airstrikes. It's this very heavy, kinetic, undeniable warfare.
Mm-hmm.
But while all the cameras are fixated on the explosions, I want to talk about something the lenses aren't catching. Because there's basically a decisive contest happening right underneath the smoke, entirely in code.
Right. It's sort of the invisible half of the war. And honestly, if you're only watching the airstrikes, you are missing the actual strategy at play here.
Which brings us to the mission of our deep dive today.
Mm-hmm.
We're looking at an article from The Strategist. It's by Justin Bassi and James Corera from the Australian Strategic Policy Institute.
Yes, the ASPI piece.
Right. And they argue that what we're seeing in Tehran isn't just, bombing plus hacking. It's a fusion. They literally call it cyber fuse with kinetic force.
That fusion is the entire point. Because usually when we talk about cyber warfare, we think of it as this separate lane, right?
Like hackers in a dark room doing their thing and pilots in the sky doing theirs.
Exactly. But the goal here, what the authors are pointing out, is an integrated assault on a nation's digital nervous system. It's not just about destroying a server rack somewhere.
So it's more immediate.
It's time to the second. You're trying to blind sensors and distort information at the exact moment the physical pressure is applied. The target is the minds of everyone, from the civilian on the street to the commander in the bunker.
I found that so fascinating when reading this.
Yeah.
That modern coercion targets belief and belonging just as much as it targets factories and docks.
It really does.
But I want to push back just a little bit on how new this actually is, because we've had psychological operations, PSYOPs, forever.
Sure.
We dropped leaflets in World War II.
Right.
We did radio broadcasts. So is this really a new form of warfare, or is it just, digital leaflets?
Well, that's exactly the right question to ask. The intent behind it, breaking the will to fight, that's as old as war itself.
Right.
But the mechanism has changed so drastically that it kind of changes the nature of the threat. Think about a leaflet. A leaflet is a broadcast. It falls from the sky, you pick it up, or you ignore it.
You could just step over it.
Right. What Bassi and Corera are describing is this invasion of personal space. It's the manipulation of trusted networks on a scale we just haven't seen before.
And this leads right into the specific example they highlight in the piece. The Badi Saba hack.
Yes, that is the perfect illustration of how this is completely different from a leaflet.
For those who don't know, Badi Saba isn't military hardware. It's a widely used Islamic calendar and prayer timing app in Iran. Millions of people have this on their phones.
It's a tool of daily religious life. It's incredibly intimate.
And according to the source, as the airstrikes began today, this app started pushing notifications.
Push notifications urging surrender, promising amnesty. Saying things like, the regime is falling, save yourself.
It's so creepy.
It is. Because, again, compare that to a piece of paper on the street. That paper is clearly foreign. But this message is coming from inside your phone, inside an app you literally use to connect with your faith.
It creates this intense cognitive dissonance. It's like the voice of the enemy is coming from your own pocket right during prayer time.
Exactly. And the authors point out that while attribution is always murky in cyber, we don't have a signed confession here. This heavily matches Israel's known capabilities.
So the takeaway is the target wasn't just infrastructure.
No, it was the Iranian public's connection to their community and their country. The digital layer is being treated as operational terrain.
I want to look at the historical parallel the article draws, because they bring up the Blitz of 1940 and 1941.
Yes, the bombing of London.
Right. Hitler and Goebbels used radio and print to wage this massive cognitive campaign alongside the physical bombing. And Churchill did the exact same thing in reverse.
But the difference now is that cyberspace has totally turbocharged that dynamic.
And the source leans on this concept from Peter Pomerantsev. He's the author of How to Win an Information War.
His work is so crucial here.
Yeah, his theory of belonging. Can you break that down for us? Because I always thought propaganda was just about lying to people, convincing them the sky is green.
A lot of people think that. But Pomerantsev argues that the real power of propaganda isn't to confuse you with lies. It's to give you a sense of belonging.
People just want to feel safe and be on the winning side.
Exactly. So look at how that applies to the messages sent to Iranians. They didn't just denounce the regime.
Right. The article says they tried to activate alternative bonds.
Yes. They were encouraging military personnel to join what they called forces of liberation, saying things like, Defend your brothers.
So they're trying to fracture one community and instantly cultivate a new one for people to defect to?
It's weaponized sociology. Don't go down with the ship. Come over to the lifeboat where your real friends are.
That reminds me of the comparison the authors make to Russia.
The active measures.
Yeah, Russia really refined this art of narrative manipulation and disinformation to polarize societies. We saw it with their invasion of Ukraine.
And what we're seeing in Tehran is that long-term Russian strategy compressed into a high-intensity kinetic conflict. It's happening over hours, not years.
Okay, so the theory is you break the trust, you fracture the community, you induce hesitation. But I'm going to play the skeptic for a second.
Go for it.
Regimes are durable. We have seen mass protests in Iran. We've seen decades of sanctions. The government is still there. Can you really tweet a regime out of existence?
That is the big debate in coercion theory. Does this actually work?
The article mentions Robert Pape, right?
Yes, Pape is a giant in this field. And the general consensus historically is that bombing a city to break civilian will usually fails.
It makes people angry at the bomber, not their own leaders. The whole blitz spirit.
Exactly. But this hybrid approach is different. It's not just about making civilians sad or angry. It targets the cognitive and bureaucratic processes of the state itself.
This is the friction strategy the authors talk about.
Right. Think about the specific effects on the Iranian government. Their military command and control is degraded. The ministries, the financial authorities, they are suddenly forced to use systems they know are compromised.
Because they can't trust their own screens.
And that creates what we call verification loops. It's a tax on the regime.
A verification tax. I like that framing.
If you get an order on your screen, but you know the network is hacked, you have to verify it. You have to pick up a radio or send a runner. You second-guess everything.
And in war, if you hesitate, you lose.
Exactly. Every decision takes 10 times longer. The authors cite a vulnerability highlighted by NATO here. If the decision-making architecture is stressed, even if your networks are somewhat intact, you can't guarantee coherent action.
The brain can't talk to the hand.
Precisely.
And there's this massive irony the source points out regarding civil society. For years, the regime forced people onto these domestic apps like Baide Saba or local cloud services to spy on them.
They built a digital cage?
But now, those exact same tools of surveillance are the vectors for the attack. It's a double-edged sword.
It really is. The single point of control became a single point of failure. And it's not just Israel exploiting it. The citizens use those same degraded networks to organize and, as the authors put it, try to rebuild political life.
It totally flips the idea of digital sovereignty on its head.
Centralization looks like strength until someone finds the back door.
Let's pivot to the global takeaway here. Because the whole point of this deep dive is to figure out why a listener, say, sitting in Australia or the US, should care about this.
This is the critical so what of the article. Because the question isn't just who wins in Tehran today. The question is whether other nations could absorb this level of sustained systemic cyber pressure.
Western societies are vastly more digitized than Iran.
We are entirely dependent on these networks. And you better believe Beijing is watching this closely.
The authors mentioned that China is taking notes.
Oh, absolutely. They're looking for lessons. They want to know what vulnerabilities they need to patch in their own systems, and they're looking for opportunities to exploit ours.
Which brings us to a phrase in the article that sounds like a movie title but is actually terrifying. Digital dynamite.
Digital dynamite. It's a term used by Rachel Noble, the former Director General of the Australian Signals Directorate.
What exactly does that mean? Because I think we assume hacking happens after the war starts.
That's the misconception. Adversaries don't wait for the shooting to start. They position this digital dynamite inside critical networks long before a crisis ever happens.
It's just sitting there. In the water grid, the power plants.
Dormant, waiting for a signal. The source argues that in Indo-Pacific, this hybrid pressure is already a constant reality. It's happening right now.
We're already in it.
We shouldn't wait for open war to confront it because the battlefield is already being prepped.
So what is the solution then?
Yeah.
If the dynamite is already in the walls, what do we do?
The authors argue it all comes down to resilience, but they define it very specifically. Systems have to be designed to operate in degraded mode.
Degraded mode, meaning assuming the network is going to fail.
Exactly. You need backup comms. You need manual fallbacks. If the digital port system goes down, do you have clipboards and radios ready to unload the ships?
We have to unlearn our obsession with efficiency.
We really do. And the scope of this is huge. It requires focusing on social infrastructure, not just military hardware.
Social infrastructure like media, finance, public info.
Right, because if the public can't buy food or read the news, panic sets in. And that panic is the weapon.
So resilience is about keeping the public calm and the lights on when the code is burning.
That's the only way to survive a fused attack like this.
We are coming to the end of our time here, but I want to wrap up with the main point.
Yeah.
What we are witnessing today is a completely new form of warfare where the digital layer is treated as operational terrain.
It is the battlefield now.
And I want to leave you, the listener, with the source's final, very provocative warning. We keep measuring success by bombs dropped and buildings destroyed.
Which might be the completely wrong metric.
Yeah.
History suggests bombing and digital disruption alone might not force regime change, but if we wait for the shooting to start before we deal with our own cyber reality, we are in trouble.
The authors say we risk strategic defeat without a shot fired.
Strategic defeat without a shot fired. Because if your networks are paralyzed, your infrastructure is dark, and your population is fractured by targeted messaging before the first missile even launches,
You've already lost.
you've lost. The war was fought and decided in the code.
Well, that is incredibly sobering. It definitely makes you look at your own phone and your own reliance on the grid a little differently today.
It really does.
Thank you all for joining us on this deep dive into the invisible battlefield. Stay curious, stay skeptical, and we will catch you on the next one.